Okay. We are at the top of the. I know we will have some more people joining us, but I think I'll go ahead and get started. So I have a few introductory slides to share to introduce today's event. So let me go ahead and do that here. Um, Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Ask NPSMA event. So we're excited today to have a session that talks about the role of executive coaching in PSM programs. Our guest today is Abby Rosenthal, and I'll talk a little bit more about her specifically and introduce her in a moment. But first, I just wanted to remind everyone about the organization in case there's anyone that's new that's joining us today. So our organization represents professional STEM master's programs throughout the nation. These were developed starting in the 1990s from a call due to industry needs for employees that were not only trained in science and technology, but also had professional skills. So this idea of the T-shaped learner that has a depth inside of it, but professional skills like teamwork and communication and business skills. So that's the unique thing that our program and those are centered around five pillars. One is coursework that's grounded in STEM topics, and those can range in many across many areas in our programs. Those are integrated with professional competencies such as business coursework, maybe certifications in related to that, an engaged uh, advisory board, engaged in input from industry to help mentor and guide the student as they develop their professional skills, transferable skills that students develop. For example, writing, communications, leadership, that goes with the theme of today's event. And then some kind of applied learning, which can be a capstone or can be an industry internship, some combination of those. Together, these give our students a unique training, a unique background that equips them for success in industry. The benefits to you as members, you're seeing one of them today, this webinar, but also members of NPSMA are able to access resources for best practices, evaluating and assessing their programs, course development, and also networking. So in addition to events like this webinar, we have our 2026 annual meeting coming up in November. The registration link for that is now available through the QR code on the screen. And so we're really excited about this virtual format and the opportunities that that will have for more broader engagement across all our programs. So stay tuned for more information related to that. And also, this is your opportunity to become engaged in NPSMA, our activities, the conference, any outreach, or any kinds of things that you would like to become engaged with. Just let us know. We're happy to have you here joining us today. We have, in addition to our LinkedIn page, which is kind of our main portal for information, definitely make sure that you connect with us there to see what events are upcoming. And we also have a YouTube channel where, for example, many of these events, these webinar events are archived. Okay, that brings us to today's presentation. This goes with the theme that we've been following this year, which is deepening partnerships with employers and aligning our education with workforce needs. And so today we have a guest speaker from Rutgers, Abby Rosenthal, who has been heavily engaged in their executive coaching program that contributes to many of their PSM programs. I'll let Abby introduce herself, but I just wanted to say that this was something that I learned about first in one of the annual meetings, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, when I spoke to someone from Rutgers and was heard about executive coaching for the first time, and I didn't know what that was, for one thing. And I also was excited to hear how the programs at Rutgers were using this training to help in the students' professional development. So when the opportunity for this topic came up, I was really excited to have Abby join us and tell us how they use executive coaching in their programs, how it's implemented, and how it benefits students and impacts them. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Abby. You should have access to share your screen if you have slides that you would like to present, and feel free to take it away.
So I did decide not to share slides. It's sometimes too much information overload. But before I get started, I just want to acknowledge my colleague, Jay Goldring, who was the one who also reached out to me to let me know about this opportunity to talk about how executive coaching has really enriched our professional science master's program. So he's on. So I just want to give him a little shout out here. He's a great asset to our program. As Victor said, my name is Abby Rosenthal. I'm one of the assistant directors in the Professional Science Master's Program at Rutgers, which offers the Master of Business and Science degree. And I'm also the second certified executive coach because I always have to give props to our OG. Kathleen Cashman joined 15 years ago. I joined 9 years ago. Next month will be 9 years. She wasn't a certified coach at the time, but she joined because this was kind of the brainchild of our executive director, Dr. Deborah Silver, who, as Victor knows, maybe Derek too, and others, who created the PSM program at Rutgers. I guess we're maybe 16 years at this point. As I was sharing earlier, we are under 800 students at this point, between 7 and 750, I believe. Jay could correct me if I'm wrong. And we are at this May over 2,000 alum. So when I joined, after Kathleen teaches, so I have to really start with Kathleen. Kathleen teaches a course that she created called Communication and Leadership. And in that course, she helps students understand their own leadership brand through a lot of amazing activities and guest speakers and assignments and things like that. And along with that, they in the course offer each student 3 hours of executive coaching from coaches who went through the leadership coaching for organizational performance, known as LCOP, at Rutgers. I mean, it's also offered at NC State and American University. But at Rutgers, those coaches want to get their hours so they can get ICF certified and get their ACC, PCC, or MCC. So in the course, and some of them take it their first semester, they get really introduced to the concept of executive coaching by having their own coach for those 3 hours over the semester. The semester is the course, though. So the reason I was brought in was to provide executive coaching outside of the course, because it's one course in a 43 credit degree program. So I offer one-on-one executive coaching, different than career coaching, folks. As some of you already know this, career coaching, Rutgers, Maryland, others, I'm trying to see where everybody's from, University of Connecticut, all have career centers, whatever they're called. And so does Rutgers. But they don't offer leadership coaching, professional development type of coaching. It's more, improving your resume, improving your LinkedIn profile, networking and interview skills, things like that. What Dr. Silver wanted Kathleen and I, and now a couple of others that are certified executive coaches do, is to work with the students on and a variety of our students are freshers, so they're either 4+1 in their senior year of college, or they graduated from undergrad and they're in our program. So those are freshers, so they haven't really been out in the field. Then there are pivoters, people who have been working but they don't like what they're doing, so they're pivoting, trying to go in a new direction. And then we call our advancers, people who are working in industry, whether it's at Pepsi or BMS or wherever, and they're looking to advance. And one way to get there is through professional development. So what students receive through me and others is that opportunity to sit down and talk about their professional development goals. They want to get a seat at the table. They want to advance. They want to be a stronger leader, or they're a new supervisor, or they don't feel this might be working as a leader, and they're looking to maybe adapt a new leadership skills or leadership style, and kind of breaking that down, unpacking it. And often, we coach. So in the program, we coach for about 30 minutes. When they're alum, and if these are alum who are executives now, usually give them about a 45, 50 minute. It's like therapy, but it's not therapy. But they're really looking for some support to build their leadership brand even further. They started it in the program through communication and leadership, and Dr. Silver really wanted them to have that reinforcement and building upon their leadership skills and their presence and their brand throughout their journey as students, and then beyond as alum. So that is what they get from a pure executive coaching perspective. And I'll pause in a moment for some questions. But Victor brought up, the 5 pillars, and obviously we all align with those 5 pillars. And one of the ways that the Master of Business and Science degree program aligns with one of the pillars is through that experiential learning and partnership experience. So we have something called an externship exchange program. It is not remote internship. There are unpaid projects given to us by employers, by organizations, startups, nonprofits, mid-sized companies, and global multinationals. And it's a real project for students to work on in teams in exchange for once a week mentoring and coaching by the industry leader that provided the project. And then I'm one of the coaches as an advisor in the program when the teams get stuck. They're not used to working on teams other than in a course on a not real project. And so it's another opportunity for us to reinforce their leadership skills. Their team leads on a project. You have to have shared leadership on these teams. So we're constantly reinforcing how to build your leadership presence and your brand throughout the life cycle of the student's journey and beyond. So I'm going to pause here because I did say a lot. I threw a lot at you, and I'm just really curious if anybody has any questions so far.
Yeah, I guess I can start off. So I guess maybe operationally, does the coaching session you mentioned, the 45 to 50 minute, is that part of this leadership and communication course? How does that fit into or is it a separate thing? Okay.
It is. It is. So the course itself has, if it's spring or fall, it's like that 15, 16 week, and they get 3 hours of coaching from a volunteer executive coach looking to gain their hours. And that could range. It can have a little bit of career coaching in there as well, but they're all guaranteed those 3 hours. But for me, through our CRM Navigate, we used to have Salesforce. Students can sign up for one-on-one coaching. So again, students get 30 minutes. They usually come back for, as Jay knows, for from an advisor's perspective, for many additional sessions, particularly based on the challenge that they're having in their organization, because over 75% of our master students are working. And so they will sign up for the one-on-one session and then I'll send them a Zoom. We used to do a lot more in person, but a lot of our working students can't come to campus, sometimes after work. And so I would provide that coaching, not every week. On occasion, it is every week. And then every once in a while, it's a group of students that are all challenged with some of the similar things. So I wind up bringing them all together and doing some group coaching because then they're learning from each other as well. So coaching can be executive coaching, leadership coaching can be used in different ways. So we use it in the class, a required communication and leadership course. It's one of our core business courses. And then outside the class, through me, for one-on-one and sometimes group coaching. Did that answer your question, Victor?
Okay. Yeah, that's very helpful. And then as a follow-up, and maybe this is you're going to get to this, but what are some of the topics or that a coaching session entails? What does that look like?
Oh, they really range. They really range, but there are a couple of that come to mind as like I see these as kind of the majority of folks or the top three. A lot of times I've been promoted into a supervisor or manager role, and I've never really led, only, in my master's program, maybe on an externship or in a volunteer situation, but I've never led. And I really want to walk through kind of maybe what I started in the communication and leadership course, but where I am today, sometimes years later. And I've just been promoted. So, new supervisory skills, how to lead a team effectively, is one of the number one topics that students will come and say, Abby, I'm petrified. I have imposter syndrome. I don't know how to lead a team. I don't even know how to start. What are I can Google it or chat GPT it, but what are some things that I can work on with you one on one? And some of that is obviously, how are you going to introduce yourself to the team? How are you going to show up for them? What is the communication that you're going to build for them? How are you going to articulate the strategy and the goals for not only your team, but how that folds up into the organization. So that's one. Another is getting a seat at the table. Like, I'm not getting invited into some rooms. I feel blocked. I don't know if it's that I don't have as many years of experience, but something's getting in my way, and I'm not sure if it's my degree, which it never is. It's usually their communication skills. It's how they show up and articulate who they are. A lot of times, just again, building confidence. But how do I get invited in a room? And a lot of them being in the science field, and we do, as all of you know, some students choose to go on the business side. But for our program that has science and business as well, a majority are on the science side. And I will just say some are very strong communicators, but some really struggle. They're introverts. They think networking or trying to like get in the door somewhere or make connections really feels slimy. Or I'm using that word, but it's not comfortable. So working through that level of discomfort takes time. And that's why the one-on-one coaching over time has really helped some students open up and come back and say, I got the job, or I'm now on this committee and all of that. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of mentoring that goes on too through our IAB, and we have a formal mentoring program. But from a coaching perspective, those are two of the three top ones although I combined imposter syndrome with how to get a seat at the table. The other is really I'm intimidated by managing up. I can manage down. I don't know how to manage, up in the organization. Whether again, whether imposter syndrome or confidence or just lack of experience, what are some ways I can build that muscle? What are some ways we can, and I'll role play with them or I will give them some things that are comfortable for them. Some people, a little change is a big change, right? And other people, a little change is a little change. So you have to really know and listen well with empathy as an executive coach to support students and alum where they are. You have to always show up for them where they are, never rushing them along to be somewhere where they're not ready. So those are the top three, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Uh, Other questions? Yes, please, Cynthia, go ahead.
Um, Hi, Abby. That it really sounds interesting. And I had a question. At Northeastern, we're probably the opposite of you. I would say with 75% of our students not working, probably 25% are in their careers. That's because we have a lot of international students. They are aiming for a co-op, although we have recently they've experienced a lot of trouble landing co-ops work experiences. And that has moved kind of further forward in the program. So if they are, they might be going out in the third semester. And we have been talking about a mentoring program, and that does now leave a little more time afterwards. But if we started something like that and they hadn't been working yet, do you think that they would come with good questions? I mean, we don't want them to come and say, "Well, help me get a co-op." That would not be the person's
Right.
responsibility, and that tends to be just what's on their minds. But they've been in classes, they've been in groups, they haven't encountered this problem. They don't know how to lead in a group. But do you think it would work and there would be enough topics or things that they would address, or maybe they would start doing this in the middle of the co-op where they would come with a real work problem. Just wanted to know what your thoughts would be on that.
Yeah, thanks, Cynthia. It's a great question. I just want to say that what you brought up is another challenge that we all have to address with our international students who are really struggling to find internships and co-ops, CPTs, and then change it over to OPTs because less companies are sponsoring. That's another topic altogether. I'll say two things on that. It is more challenging, Cynthia, with respect to doing executive coaching that isn't around getting a job or an internship. When they haven't experienced yet the business world because they don't know what they don't know, to apply it. But I think there are certain topics from a professional branding perspective. I know some people hate that word and you can use your own, but professional presence, that is another way to do coaching with students that don't have that experience. And some of that is putting together, and I didn't want to do slides because I would have gone on forever because I just love sharing so much with people from a best practice perspective. But there is a lot of skills that they can generate in the classroom. And thinking about when you're working on a project in a team, are you a team lead? Are you not a team lead? And in what way? And you can infuse that in some of your coursework that are team based. Whether it is not to your capstone at the end, but maybe earlier on, even if it's voluntary, a professional development workshop series where you're learning about these topics. You're not coming to talk about your resume or job searching. You're coming to talk about who you want to be as a leader, as a future leader, and then talking about some of those skills from a communication, teamwork, conflict management, I'm trying to think, delegation, all those key pieces that you could, invite people to and then put them in breakouts or if it's in person, you know, put them in tables to really work through a problem that they, like a really good problem. The other thing I would say is your school, it put co-ops on the map. And a lot of universities have really tried to emulate what were so great at and are still great at. I would strongly recommend, and I mean this, Jay knows I mean this, I think more schools could do it because we partnered with, oh gosh, over 500 companies in our externship exchange program. And our externship program, which is experiential learning, the students don't get paid, but they get mentored by a leader in an organization. They get to put that on their resume. And this has made, as Jay can contest, made the world of difference for our students, international or domestic, to land internships or full-time jobs because they had real experience over a whole semester, 4 or 5 months, working on a real project that they had to solve, a problem they had to solve, and putting that on their resume really opens doors. Now that's different than coaching, but I really wanted to pay attention to what sounded like a dilemma that you're having with 25% of your students who are working and 75%, maybe separating those. And the ones who are working, the 25%, you do a cohort there. And then the ones who aren't working, you do a different cohort because it can be challenging with people who are industry professionals and students that don't have any experience. So coaching can be a little bit different, and these projects can be different. But I could talk to you another time and anybody else about the externship exchange program because it's really changed students' lives. And we have typically 45 to 50 projects from industry a semester. And this semester, we had all-time high of 275 students because of what's happening in industry with lower positions available for full-time and also the drop in internships and co-ops. So that was very long-winded, Cynthia, but I was struck by what yours and others that we're struggling with. And I think the externship exchange program is an opportunity to offer coaching as well on real topics of how to work on a team, how to lead from the side, how to resolve conflict, because you're all coming from different perspectives and starting potentially there if you didn't want to just offer executive coaching. There are ways that you can integrate coaching in different parts of your university.
Any other questions at this point? I have many questions, but I want to make sure everyone has a chance to ask. So,
Yeah, I have a
Shalissa, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Thank you, Abby. This is very interesting. Is this like this a 3 credit course, a 3 credit hour course?
The
And
communication and leadership course is a 3 credit required business course. Yes. The executive coaching, that's part of my job. So it's not part of a course. They don't pay for it.
uh,
Yeah.
so how do you make a student enroll in the coaching session?
So as Jay knows, I am sending emails to students all the time to talk
Mhm.
about different types of coaching topics that they can approach me with. I also, some of you know about the Stanford University Designing Your Life. I don't know if you've seen the books, Designing Your Life, Designing Your Work Life, Designing Your New Work Life, and they just came out with like Designing Your Meaningful Life. And
Mhm.
two Stanford engineers wrote these books, and then they also created a coaching program from it. So some of that is career related and some of it is not career related. So I'm, as you could see here, DY Hall Coach is not a course, but it's using design thinking to help people get unstuck in their career. And it could be I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, but it could also be I want to figure out what I want to do within my employer or I want to pivot. And again, it's using design thinking principles. That is not yet a paid course. That is a free workshop series that we offer students and invite alum. At some point, not that far in the future, we may offer that through our professional education to alum, not a course, but at a fee. But from a student perspective, um, my role was, you know, I'm no longer running alumni engagement, but I do a lot of student coaching. I do a lot of professional development. I was doing alumni engagement at the time. I run the internship program. I teach in the externship program. And I do corporate outreach to bring companies, employers to the program. I see Jay went off mute, so I'm going to pause to let him jump in there.
Well, you see the clues. That's good, good spotting. I'm an academic advisor, and so and students are often, they ask questions about the course. They start asking about more in-depth career questions, and I have giving my experience in the fields that I've worked in. I talk quite a bit about it, but I often refer them to Abby when the questions get, when they start getting a little bit more leadership related, and I know Abby's trained in this kinds of in these kinds of interactions, and I'm not really, like probably the rest of us. I spent a career in industry. I didn't even know how to teach before I came here. Learned about teaching, and now I'm learning about what Abby does, and we work together. So kind of the message is to work with the advisors so that they understand when it's appropriate to bring in, a kind of a coaching type of interaction.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great point, Jay, to add in. So a lot of times it's kind of funny. It's like I'll get referrals, if you will, from the advisors, Jay and others. Other times it's I'm reaching out, students, we've got these events coming up. We're hosting a panel event with students, as Jay sometimes also hosts panel events. And then sometimes we'll say, don't forget, you can come for coaching. And people will come over though and say, I'm really struggling at my company. I'm not happy. I feel blocked. I don't know what kind of conversations to have. Can I meet with you? And those are our working students. Back to Cynthia's point, though, or back to even Victor's point from an operational perspective, I do think Jay brought up one of the good things. We work together. So the advisors, I'll refer back to the advisors. If they start asking me, well, if I wanted a career in supply chain, should I take the supply chain course? And I'm like, it sounds like a good idea, but you need to check with your advisor. Like we have to have each other's back so that the student is really taken care of, that they are from a curriculum perspective and an advising perspective and a coaching perspective. So operationally, we're very grounded in the curriculum because, as we all know, the curriculum needs to match industry. And that's why we have our industrial advisory boards and we're always changing curriculum and all of that. And students benefit from that. And so they come up with questions. The other thing I would say, back to it when Cynthia asked, I send surveys to students and say, I'm not talking about career coaching. I'm not talking about resume, networking, interview skills. From a leadership perspective, what goals might you have? What workshops or workshop series would best benefit you? We could do some group. We could and ask, would you like individual? Would you like group? Would you like to be at workshop? That's how I started 9 years ago when I came in to see, well, how am I going to play a role as a coach when I don't know what their needs are, right? We need to know what they're looking for because our students are going to be different than Cynthia's student, different from Marcel's student, Sabrina's, etc. Everybody's students are a little bit of a different mix and have different needs, although there are going to be some similar needs. So thank you for asking that question to us.
Thank you, Abby. Have you experienced, like when you work with a student, do they know why they want to become a leader?
It's a great question. And I ask that question usually at the start when they say, well, a lot of times they'll get a master's degree and just immediately think they're going to move into management, right? I'm going to be a manager. I'm going to be a director. And it's like, this doesn't always work that way, right? You got to have that experience first. And so tell me, one of the things about coaching, first thing is active listening. Like you're really meeting that student where they are. Then you get curious. which leads into that. Tell me more about what leadership means to you. Let's talk about that for a moment. And I'm never, so when I'm coaching, I turn off my advisor hat. I turn off my career coach hat because it is not, executive coaching is not telling students what to do. It is really trying to ask powerful questions because they know they can figure it out themselves. And when it's from them authentically figuring it out, because you're asking them really curious questions, they own it, right? They're in it. And then they're committing to some actions that you've not told them to do, that they've committed to do, or you've come up with together. Um, and so they're more invested in that. But that is like one of the first questions. So I love where your mindset is. Some of the first questions when they come in and they go, well, I want to be a leader. I want to be a manager. I'm like, tell me what that means for you. And so we have to unpack that first. So yes, the answer is yes. And that's how I usually approach it. And then we go from there. Yeah. Great
Yeah,
question.
yeah, thank you. Because I don't want to dominate, but really, coaching is what we all need. What we
Yeah.
all, and not
I
just
need coaching sometimes too as a coach. I have a coach. Yeah.
like you, like who's three really available, even soliciting for to be coached is really an amazing opportunity. I wish I'll be in any of. In our place, we have to. It's very hard to keep people, somebody who can do that. So it's about being authentic, being vulnerable, being like, trust other person to share everything, what is holding
Yeah.
you. Then you can be coach because the coach cannot tell you what to, but you are the one. You know already you know what's holding you. So it's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I'll even do a personal SWOT with
Mhm.
them because they sometimes can't even name their strengths. And I'll just say, you got to name three. And then if you go over to the W, I rename them. I don't like the word weakness. Just what's a work on? What's something you want to work on? We'll talk about that. Just one, because I don't like to overwhelm students, but I like them to understand their strengths. Particularly, I'll leverage the MBS degree program, but and then for the opportunities, I'll say it's a good word, but also what are some open doors what are doors that you can open? Think about it on campus and out of campus. Is it an association? Are there some events? Those kinds of things. And then I don't like the word threats, so I just say, what thwarts you? What knocks you off course? What gets in your way? So to Telesa's point, sometimes the students will cry at that point. They'll just be like, I'm getting in my own way. I am, not all of them. I'm just saying it's a moment where you just have to hold space for them and and allow them to cry. I'm not doing therapy with them, but I'll just say, so that was really, that really moved you. Tell me a little bit about that. So what are some things you feel have been helpful in the past that you might want to try, moving forward? And so they don't always know what they don't know. But again, us as trained coaches can really open up their thinking. And then I'm telling you, it opens up the way they articulate who they are, even when they're interviewing. And some students have come back and said, thank you for coaching me those 6, 7 times or whatever. I knocked it out of the park. I just felt so confident. Um, but yeah, it can be tricky at times.
Maybe to follow up on that a little bit, and you reminded me that it was a conversation with Deborah Silver that made me
Yeah.
aware of the coaching activities at Rutgers a couple of years ago. And I think you mentioned this, Abby, toward the beginning of your talk, that there's a certification or some program that coaches are going through to become certified. And even maybe even stepping back from that I was surprised to learn that executive coaching is kind of like the norm, I guess. People in
Yeah.
higher level positions are receiving this coaching proactively as a normal part of their professional development. That's something I wasn't aware of. So for programs that are maybe thinking about this kind of offering this kind of service to the students, Can you talk a little bit more about what the organization is, or how it's what we would look for in our programs, maybe to see if there's a similar chapter or branch that we could try to affiliate with?
So there are many coaching programs out there. You want one that's ICF endorsed. It's
Mm,
affiliated with the International Coach Federation. Um, for many reasons. Because if you go through coaching and it becomes life coaching or it's not really business based, leadership
mm,
based, it doesn't always get endorsed by the ICF. And that was really important to me. When I got to Rutgers 9 years ago, the first thing I said to Deborah, to Dr. Silver, was I was an action coach. I don't want to do action coaching. It's more like an advisor role. And I said, I learned about a program here at Rutgers called the Leadership Coaching for Organizational Performance, the LCOP. It is also offered, I told you, at American and NC State. There are some hybrids where you go to campus and others that are fully online. And you don't have to be part of those three universities to go through it. There are many people who go through it from other universities. Um, it's through Heidrick and Struggles. So Heidrick and Struggles really owns the curriculum, the LCOP, and then they partner with other universities. So that is something all of you can look into with Heidrick and Struggles to see if you could partner with them to build your own um, LCOP program. Now, that is not for students. That is for the coaches themselves to go through, and then they train you, and then you can become a coach for students. And to be honest, if you become an executive coach within a university, you're going to get your 100 hours for an ACC pretty quickly. I didn't
mm.
even do my ACC. I went right for my PCC, which is 500 hours, because within a year I was like there. But as college or university, you can reach out to Heidrick and Struggles. They basically own the rights to the curriculum of the Leadership Coaching for Organizational Performance, the LCOP. So that is another option for all of you to look into if you wanted to bring it in to your respective academic institution. But there are others. It's not the only one. I fell in love with it. I had to pause because Kathleen had been with our program longer, so she got to go through it the semester before me, and then I went through it, and then some other people went through it, like Alicia, John, and I think that's it. We have another executive coach, but he didn't go through the LCOP. He went through something else, but he's part time anyway. But that is another option. And if the LCOP isn't a good fit, there are a few others. I know I did a ton of research back in 2018 when I went through it and probably have changed a bit, but I could certainly send Jay and Victor and Derek some information about those kind of top five programs. I know the LCOP is definitely in there because of its leadership component and
Mm.
helping others tap into their own. And that's why I love the program. Like I said, I didn't want to do a life coaching program or something really out there. I really wanted it to be focused on leadership development.
And is this something that might be already, there might be something like this already in, for example, a business school in our institutions that maybe
Could
we're not
be.
aware of, or okay. Yeah.
It could be. Our business school did not jump on that, believe it or
Oh,
not.
okay. Oh, wow.
RBS never jumped on it. I think they were kind of mad at us because we're not part of the business school. We're part of the School of Graduate Studies. And the business school does offer coaching in a different way. It's more mentoring. They've got
Mm.
a great mentoring program. We do too. And Rutgers University as a whole has free coaching. I don't know whether those coaches are trained as executive coaches. Some of it is career coaching and executive coaching combination, and that's through like Rutgers University Foundation. And then there's a women in leadership program that also offers it. So definitely check internally
Mm.
and see if there are pockets somewhere that has some type of coaching program that you could build upon. That's definitely another option.
Okay, yeah, those are great suggestions that I hadn't thought about. Any other questions for Abby?
No pressure. And sometimes people process differently. Like they'll leave this
Mm.
conversation and come up with a question or think of something. We're not always thinking in the
Yeah.
moment. So if anybody does, can I just drop my email in the chat for everybody and they could
Yes, please go
reach
ahead.
out to me with any questions? As Jay knows, and he's the same way. We should all be supporting each other. We're all part of the same association. These are all great. I never look at things as competition. I always look at things as how can we lean on each other to share best practices? Because at the end of the day, we want to all help our students. So why not share great initiatives and great ideas and great resources with one another on a regular basis?
Definitely.
Um,
Yeah, Terry,
Yeah,
I noticed you came off. Oh, yeah, I don't know, Jay.
that's okay. Other people first. I'll fill the silence, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah.
So, Abby, thank you for bringing this topic. But I was curious, especially when you talk about helping others within our organization, do you actually offer this coaching, executive coaching to your peers, the other faculty, administration within your program, or others?
What an interesting question with Jay here. So, I do not charge anybody. I have absolutely had deans. I've had two deans at Rutgers, one assistant dean, one associate dean. Some faculty have come to me or people who have learned about me. Sometimes I'll do a DYL, Designing Your Life talk, or I'll talk about the externship exchange and I'll introduce myself as a certified coach. And even parents come over to me at times and say, "Can I hire you to do some executive coaching?" I have to watch out for that one. But overall, yes, I have coached faculty, not just in our own program, but I can't do that on a regular basis. I'll usually say I could give you 3 sessions because, I don't want to get in trouble with my program. If it's our faculty and our staff, I'll do it just because I care. But if it's other people who've learned about me, um, I'll give them 3 sessions. Close your ears, Jay. Yeah. But
I was kind of curious if
it,
they found it useful within the academic realm.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, for a variety of reasons. I'm not a PhD. I'm a female in a male dominating environment, or I mean a lot of imposter syndrome. I'm feeling stuck. I feel like I'm not doing right by the students. I want to lead and be in a
Yeah,
leadership role. So, yeah, I've gotten that. What a great question, Terry. Yeah.
good to hear.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that I do orientation for our students, and when I do orientation, I really believe in this component of our program. It really rounds it out. I mean, and I tell the students, if you just about keep your head down and take your courses and are concerned about the academic content, you're getting maybe about 25% of what we have to offer. And I say, this is a big piece of it, and the students really, I think at the end they really appreciate it. It's much more, that's it really gives that's what really gives the MBS program and the PSM program an edge, because certainly nobody who gets an MS in a science program has anything close to this. And I can
Yeah.
speak from experience. I've got my PhD and I went into industry, and I had no idea what I was doing. It took me a long time to figure out, how to navigate through. And this is a way an individualized way that students really can build on the strengths of their personalities and their needs individually, and make and kind of build their careers through that. So I'm a big fan.
Also, when you work in an organization, when students work in an organization or when they graduate, they have a learning and development department or talent development, leadership development. And usually for the more junior level folks, you're doing stuff asynchronously online. And so to somebody's earlier point, most C-suite VPs have an executive coach because they want to be effective leaders. And so the question that Megan asked, which is a great question, particularly if you're talking about master students as well, is to maybe start and do during orientation, which is we do this sometimes, which is to, ask some really curious questions during orientation, or maybe offer a workshop to come in and share some of their biggest challenges. Again, not getting a job, but moving forward in their career. What gets in your way? What are some things that seem to stop? Maybe doing that personal SWOT, and then having them talk to each other new students, and then debrief with them. Even if you're not a certified coach yet, that's okay. You're used to being in front of students in one way or another, either teaching or advising or what have you, and just say, how did that feel to be sharing your strengths or your work-ons, or how you can open doors here at the university, or what's holding you back, like what's getting you, how did that feel? And the students love it. They just love it. And the debriefing piece is so powerful. You're not doing one-on-one coaching. It's almost like an introduction to group coaching, but it does give you an opportunity to get the students in the mindset of where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? Some of the things that we do is during orientation, part two, Jay does part one, part two, Kathleen, me, and Deborah will do it. And we start with where we are now. Like I am where I am now, right? And you got to meet those students where they are today. So where do you want to be down the road, 3 to 5 years? Let's map it out. And that's where DYL coaching came in, because they do Odysseys, which you don't have to go through DYL coaching to learn about Odyssey planning. And that they took away the words planning, just doing your Odysseys. It's basically 3 paths, 3 lives. And you want the students to start thinking about what is your 3 to 5 year, not plan, but what are your thoughts? What's your current trajectory while you're in the program? The courses you're going to take, the experiential learning, the internships, the co-op, the mentoring, joining associations, maybe even some personal stuff they throw on their OP1 or Odyssey 1, which is their current trajectory. Their second trajectory is so important today is, what if that job goes away? What is another option for you with the skills that you're building? Play that out, but it has to be completely different than Odyssey 1. And then Odyssey, the way Stanford teaches is if you didn't have to work for money or pressure from family or anything like that, what would you do? Some people say, well, I would clean up the plastic in, the Galapagos, or I would go around and teach sign language or I would, getting their juices, their creative juices flowing in the Odyssey 3. And then the debrief is, so how can you bring some of the joy that you would do in your third into your other 2 plans? And it just helps students like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about a plan B, or I hadn't even thought about what I could do if I did. And it's really talking about how to make all of that work for them, setting themselves up for success. And it can incorporate who they want to be as a leader. At what point would you want to lead? What kind of leader, back to Telesa's point, would you want to be? Put that on your plan, or put that on your Odyssey. Got to get used to not calling it plans anymore, because they said it's too intimidating to use the word plans. But I have a lot of ideas for you. Maybe one of them off the bat, to do something at orientation or first semester, bringing the students together, maybe different cohorts if there's too many, and either do a SWOT or do Odysseys, because you could get them right off the internet. You don't have to be certified just to run Odysseys by them.
That's a great suggestion, Abby, in working it into the orientation session. That's the takeaway we do the typical icebreaker kind of activity, but this is something that would really go to a deeper level and get students thinking about their journey through the program immediately. So that's a great suggestion.
And we always caveat that with, and it could change.
Hmm.
And it's okay. You may pivot. You may, as Jay knows, sometimes students who are studying, I don't know, oh gosh, I can't even think right now, but analytics, they're pivoting over to cybersecurity, or they're studying product design and they're going over to UX design, or whatever it might be. So I always say to the students, and so does Kathleen, so does Jay, so does Deborah, and it's okay if you pivot. It's all right. People pivot all the time. And guess what? These PSM programs, all of you here, you're building future leaders because you're giving them opportunities to have multiple paths. So put them on that journey. Help them put in that mindset of it's not just one path for you. There can be many. When just today we're just in orientation, or if it's first semester, let's just think about that, and open our minds to a little bit of broader thinking around our careers. And again, it's not resume writing, it's not job seeking. It's really about what kind of leader do you want to be? What does that mean? Yeah, I know we're at the top of the hour.
Very good. We're getting close to time. Any final questions? Any burning questions? This is your last chance.
Well, they can email me
Yeah, that's right. Last chance to get a
here.
live
Yeah.
response. Yeah.
You mentioned you were accredited by I can't remember the name of the association for coaching.
ICF. ICF.
What are their standards? Like, what are they looking for to in a coach to accredit somebody that might be different from someone who's just kind of an uncredited life coach or something?
Well, you have to go through an accredited program that
Okay.
they approve, and then you take an exam. I hate to
Okay.
say. They do have their ethics, their code of ethics, to follow, and they can be a little rigid with respect to
Okay.
what they define as coaching. But most coaches who go through a accredited coaching program end up passing and doing
Yeah.
really well. But they're if you want, I can also, if anybody wants, I can send I know some people left, so I don't want to just put it, but the International Coach Federation, I wouldn't do ICF.org because it's not right. I think it's like, I don't know what the website is, but it's if you Google International Coach Federation, it'll pop up
Okay.
and talk about it for you. Yeah,
Okay. Awesome.
great.
Wonderful. Well, 'cause we're getting to the top of the hour, so I just want to thank you again, Abby,
There you
for
go.
a very thought-provoking presentation, and thanks, Christine, for putting the link in the chat
Yes,
for everyone there. But this was a very inspiring and thought-provoking session, at least for me. So I really appreciate you taking the time to tell us about your programs and how you implement this to support students. This is something that I think can really be something that maybe all of us can think about implementing in some way to support the students. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I want to thank Jay again for knocking on my door and asking me if I'd be willing. And if I said, of course. I was at Colgate Palmolive today for a student presentation, and the senior vice president of global quality said to the students, we don't tend to always look at GPA anymore. We really look to see how you show up, how you can articulate what you want and what your impact can be. And a lot of them learned how to do that through the coaching program, but also through externship. So I would just say, all of you, look to see if it already exists somewhere in your academic institution, and look for ways you could partner with Hydrogen Struggles or others to build your own. But I'm happy to answer questions moving forward with any of you. Reach out at any time.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And
Mm.
I guess we'll end it there and
Okay.
see you all next time.